Hi, this is Julianne Hartman, and welcome to Heart to Heart. And today I have on the show with me Miss Desiree Zuckerman. Desiree is a good friend of mine, but she's also a real estate agent. Thank you for joining me again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now, this is part 2 of a show about real estate. And when we were done with the first show, we were talking off camera, and I said, gee, if you're a first-time buyer, what do you do? So Desiree, what do you do?
What do you do? Get approved for a loan first.
Okay.
People don't usually think about that first, but that is the most important thing. First of all, it's difficult to get approved for a loan in today's market, so you want to make sure that you are approved before you even start to search, because you need to know how much you're approved for before you start your search. What if you're looking at $500,000 homes and you can only afford 3, or 3 and maybe you could afford 4? So that's definitely the most important. And there's fantastic programs for first-time home buyers right now. So in fact, the largest percentage of our market buying homes right now are first-time home buyers.
Really?
Yeah, because interest rates are very low and prices are low, and this is the first time in about probably 7 or 8 years that people have been able to afford homes again.
Oh, okay. And
so
7 years ago, they were what, 10? No?
Yeah, they were very young,
Yes.
or maybe they're just getting out of college, or they have started a career. And really, for the last few years, it was very difficult to get into the market. Right before the crash, it was too expensive.
Right.
And then for the last few years, it was almost impossible to get a loan. So there's been a lot of people who've been waiting on the fence, waiting to see if they can afford a house and making that decision to jump into the market. But it's an excellent time to jump in because rates, as we discussed, are at a 50-year low.
Wow.
I mean, they say something like it wasn't this low since FDR, if that really makes you put it into perspective.
Right.
So rates are very low. You can still get FHA loans, which would allow you to put down 3.5%. So a lot of people don't realize that. They think they have to put down 20%. You do on higher end loans, but if your loans are conforming loans, there's if it's under 729 in California, then you can still get a FHA loan with 3.5% down.
Okay.
Most important thing is your income. That's what they look at more than anything, is that you have a very stable income, even more than your credit.
Okay.
So that's the most important.
But let me ask you this though. I mean, when I was, going to buy a house, it was the eye candy. It was, I want to see the house first. I want to see that house first, and now I'm going to go, okay, what can we do to get in that house?
Right.
So you're saying don't do that. You're saying find out what you're qualified for, which is a real mature thing to do.
Right. And we're not usually like that. I mean, most people will be driving by an open house and they'll see a sign, and I'm famous for doing my open houses, and I get people like that all the time, and they say, well, we were just driving down the street and it looks really pretty, and like you said, eye candy. And they think, well, this is the house of my dreams and I want to go see it. And they don't even have any idea if they can afford it or not.
Right.
So it is very important that's fine at the beginning to see if you're even in the market for that type of a house, that neighborhood. If you like the area, that's the first step. But really, you need to get qualified first. Then second, you need to find a professional, licensed real estate agent to advocate on your behalf and to find you a home that you can afford in an area that's suitable for your needs, and to hold your hand and take you through the process. That's very, very important. I'm personally ABR certified, which is I'm an accredited buyer's rep through the National Association of Realtors. There's other accreditations out there, but it's important to know that whoever you're working with has been working with buyers for a very long time, that they know what they're doing. There's just so many ins and outs, especially first-time home buyers, which are my favorite because they're really excited.
They're excited.
And it's very positive, and
they haven't been jaded by all that.
Yeah. They don't know what it's like to have to pay the mortgage every month and the utilities just yet. But it's still fun. It's fun to own your own home and decorate it and fix it up and make it your own. I mean, that's the American dream, is to own a home. So it's just very important, though, to have somebody who knows the process. It's more than just finding it. There's a whole process.
There's like things that I thought of after, I had kids. Like when I first bought a house, I didn't have kids yet. But I didn't think about the school district.
Right.
And I didn't think about, the convenience of things. I had no idea. So, I mean, would you say that you're that kind of an agent that would say, hey, listen now, it's not just the look of the house. It's not just, in that neighborhood. Is this conducive to where you work, to where your kids are going to go to school? Because let's face it, a lot of school districts, you can't even put your kids in. You got to end up going private because you don't want to have your kids in that school district.
Right. No, it's very important to look at the future, and that's why I'm saying you need to make sure that you have somebody who is advocating on your behalf and looking at your needs.
Right.
And they're going to be, I'm looking at the big picture. Whereas you, as let's say you're the home buyer, you're looking at the eye candy, and I'm saying, well, wait a second, this commute is going to be further for you because you can't reach this freeway from this particular area, except if you go down this street. And I'm going to be familiar with the neighborhoods. I'm going to know what the traffic patterns are. I'm going to know about the schools. And even if you haven't had kids yet, I'm going to discuss that with you because that's part of my job. Are you planning on having kids in the next, few years? And even though initially it doesn't matter, it's good to be in a good district anyway because it keeps your home values up as well. True. So there's other considerations. Sometimes it's, like you say, convenience. Maybe you like to go out to dinner. You like to be able to walk to the market. What are the noise nuisances in the area? So there's so many little factors that it's important to work with someone who also knows the neighborhood, knows the area, and is well-versed in all the aspects of buying a house. Like I was saying, it's sometimes finding the house is the easiest part. It's actually going through the process, closing the escrow. That's the difficult part. You have to make sure that they perform all the proper inspections. There's so many inspections to go through. And to really sit down with you and explain them all to you.
Now, is it getting even tougher, too, with inspections? I mean, has everything really tightened up since this whole...
When the market was at its height, buyers would, run to a house, write an offer, never even get inside. That's fine, I'll take it.
Gosh.
The sellers wouldn't do a thing to fix it, and that was it. Now it's turned. It's, a buyer's market. They have a little bit more control. You can go in and actually write a stronger offer and say, when I do my inspection and I go through it and there's things that are wrong, we want you as the seller to fix X, Y, and Z. And before, when they wouldn't do anything, now they're more willing to make sure that the house is in a little bit better condition. Or if there's a major issue, I mean, that's always a negotiable factor, but just it's a little bit more on the buyer side now. But those are important. The appraisal issues are very important right now with the values of the homes.
And now about that. So let's say that, like I have a house that it's very hard to appraise because not a lot of houses have what I have.
Right.
And so they had to go like 10 miles away to try to find something that was comparable. But then it really wasn't comparable because
it was 10 miles away.
Yeah, it was 10 miles away. And it wasn't in that community that's that, nice community kind of a thing. So, how does that whole process work with the appraisals?
Well, the lender who the buyer is using is going to send their appraiser out to appraise the house. And basically the bank is saying, is this home worth what we're going to loan you? Because they're loaning, between 80 and 96.5% of the value of the house. So the bank is going to determine the appraised value, and they'll send somebody out. So you kind of want to know up front, though, am I just completely out of the ballpark? And that's an important thing, too, because buyers get their hopes up and maybe it comes in really low, or and then they can't get the loan for it. So that's an important factor as well. It's hard to buy the nicest house in a neighborhood or the most unique house in a neighborhood. That's very difficult to appraise.
So let's do this now with the list. You get the loan. Okay, so you're thinking about buying a house.
Right.
You want to start looking at your loan process first.
Right.
See what you can afford. Then number 2, you find the house.
Find the agent.
Oh, right, sorry. Find the agent.
Or find an agent who helps you find a lender, which is what I often do with first-time home buyers, because then they're there with you for the whole process.
Okay.
So a lot of times, how I work, and I can only discuss how I work, is I just know how I walk people through the process. As they call me, they kind of let me know about what they're looking for, how large a house, sort of the area, and I usually ask them questions about where you work, where you live, not just where you work, but where you live, where you want to be, what kind of shopping, what kind of restaurants, what kind of facilities nearby. And then we talk about that, and then I send them to a lender. The lender pre-qualifies them, make sure that they're approved. We figure out a price range, and we start looking. And I usually send them listings from the computer now. Everything's on the computer.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much, I think they said 96% of all buyers find their home on the internet these days. So everything's pretty much on the computer, and I set them up with a password, and they can get in and see all the same listings. So it's not so much about that, but about actually going out and looking at the home and feeling and touching and make sure that it fits. And then you present the offer, and that's another huge part of the process.
Okay, because
so after you find it, then you have to negotiate the offer and make sure that you have somebody who's a strong negotiator on your behalf, who's protecting your rights and your interests and getting you the best deal on the house. And then you go through the process of the inspections.
Okay.
And if it all goes well, the inspections, the appraisal, you sign loan docs,
And you're done.
They fund, you get a set of keys, and it's
house.
your house. You're a homeowner.
Wow, then it opens up a whole other different world, right?
Yeah.
You know, to upkeep the house, and then
Right.
you know, and then with your property values and all that stuff, and your property taxes, and
Yes.
and that's one of the things too that I know that I don't think. Okay, for instance, when you buy a car, have you ever noticed how you want that car and they want you to buy the car? So they'll say like, oh yeah, your payment is $520, and you're like, okay, and you've already negotiated, you've already like played the whole game, and then you get your first payment in the mail, and it's like $620.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, wait a minute, how'd that become $620?
But the benefit with a house is that you do pay property taxes, but they're tax deductible.
Right.
So you do get some of it back at the end of the year if your accountant, knows how to
But
process it.
I like to know up front, okay,
Right.
what, like the closing costs. What are my closing costs? Because I know that usually they,
But you should have that. I mean, as a buyer, that's what the
I mean,
lender
like
is
even
doing.
knowing before, like, okay, before it's all put out
Right.
on that paper.
They should give you an estimate right up front. You should
Oh,
get
really?
that as a
Okay.
buyer. You should have an estimate at the beginning of this is what you can afford, this is how much the payment is, taxes, insurance, and what your closing costs will be. All of that should be estimated up front.
Something happened because I swear it was always one of those things my husband would go, what are all these costs? And I'm like, I don't know, they didn't tell me,
Yeah,
Well,
no,
maybe
that
it's-
happens a lot.
It does.
Yes.
I haven't bought a house in 11 years, so I guess I'm okay. That's probably why it's been a long time.
You're okay.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Desiree.
You're
I know we're
welcome.
running out of time, but I hope that helps you because that's awesome, to know that there is so many first-time home buyers. Because I always heard that, well, it's not a first-time home buyer's market at all, and when we get our chance? Well, unfortunately, the economy had to crash in order for that to happen. But hey, there's something for everybody,
Now's the
right?
chance.
That's
Yeah.
right. So now's your chance to get in, and don't buy over what you can afford. Don't do
No.
it because then you add on.
Don't
other
be house
problems.
poor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Our foundational scripture is the reason I've chosen this is Hebrews 11:1, and it's now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So see, you got to have faith to do all these steps for the house, to get the loan, to do all these there's a huge process involved. But if you don't have faith in God and in what's going on around you as far as the process that you're going to be going through, then like I said, then it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, oh well, if it happens, it does. And that's like what we call living by chance. And see, with biblical principles, you don't live by chance. You know that you know that you know, right?
Correct.
Right. So I'm done preaching for today. But no, you got to have faith. You got to have faith in what you're doing, what you believe in, and you're going to get all the things that you're asking for. Because we have favor with God and man, right?
Yes.
We can call those things that be not as though they are. So I'm going to be done preaching here in a moment. So thank you so much. Once again, from my heart to your heart, Juliana Desiree, and we'll talk to you soon.